Bro, this story has one of the most satisfying trash skill power systems I've seen in an isekai, because this guy basically gets a portal that turns everybody else's garbage into ridiculous loot. Look at how stupid this gets. He takes 3 broken weapons nobody even wants and throws them into this tiny black portal one by one. The first disappears. Then the second. Nothing comes back. But once the third goes in, the portal finally reacts and spits out an triple S rank blood sword. And this thing is disgusting. He barely cuts a monster, pulls the blade back out, and its health just keeps dropping until the thing dies on its own. So trust me when I say, the garbage portal alone makes this one worth watching, and the weapons aren't even the craziest things he eventually pulls out of it. But I do have to mention Professor Elara. Bro, this woman spends 99% of the story buried under layers of fancy mage robes, and then the artist gives us one battle-damaged outfit. And suddenly I understand why half the academy is failing spatial magic. They aren't looking at the portal. Anyway, forget all that. Let's get into it. His entire university class gets summoned into another world. Almost everyone starts pulling useful combat abilities. One guy gets fire magic, another gets an A-ranked defensive skill, and then one of his classmates steps into the awakening circle and straight up summons an triple S ranked dragon. The kingdom loses its mind. And unfortunately for our guy, his girlfriend is watching too. The creature's first wing beat blasts gold dust over the throne. Ren Rook watches that distance grow. Hana Sayo stays near Ren, watching the court soar people instead of joining the students pressing toward Asta. The court identifies it as a tyrant wyvern. That sounds slightly less impressive than a dragon until its tail crushes a marble lion beside the throne. Silver letters burn above Asta. Court Oracle Serik reads the only part anyone cares about, SSS Dragon Knight. Mia Hart's fingers tighten around Ren's sleeve. At the center of the hall, Asta turns toward the wyvern. Asta lifts one hand. Kneel. The wyvern does not. A red chain flashes once around the wyvern's throat. Only then does the beast lower its head, one reluctant inch at a time, until its horn stops in front of him. Professor Elara Voss does not clap. While everyone watches Asta, she studies the fading chain around the wyvern's throat. The beast obeyed. It did not submit. Sarat calls the next student. Mia's name flashes above the circle. Mia gives him a quick nod, crosses the floor, and stands beneath the appraisal crystal. Silver threads rise around her wrists. They stretch outward, searching the hall until one thread brushes Ren and another reaches toward Asta. Sarik announces, Life Covenant. Mia can bind herself to one partner, borrow that person's aura, reinforce their recovery, share resistance, and take part of the damage meant for them. The king looks at Asta. He only turns from the wyvern and offers his hand. Ren is still waiting for his awakening. Mia looks at the empty circle behind her, then back at Ren. Then she looks at Asta, his extended hand, and the triple S beast kneeling behind him. Her silver thread pulls taut. Mia's fingers leave Ren's sleeve completely, and the decision settles across her face before she says a word. Mia takes Asta's hand. The silver thread around her wrist snaps away from Ren and winds around Asta instead. 2 colors twist over their joined hands, climb toward Mia's heart, and lock into a provisional crest. Mia looks at Ren only after all of that becomes real. It is about surviving, she says. None of us knows this world, and Asta is the strongest thing in it. My power only grows beside his, you understand. I get it, Ren says. Understanding the calculation does not make it feel better. For half a second, the Covenant flickers. One silver strand bends away from it, trembles, and then forces itself back into place. Mia winces. Professor Ilara notices. Her crystal pen marks the flicker beside the wyvern's delayed kneel. Beside Ren, Hana Sayo watches Maya step toward Asta's side of the hall. She only says, You should have waited. Maya hears her. She keeps walking. Sarik calls Ren's name. Ren steps over the claw mark, splitting the awakening circle. Gold light climbs his legs, crosses his chest, and gathers around his right hand. He braces for heat, weight, claws, anything that looks remotely useful. A black oval opens above his palm. It is barely wider than an apple. No weapon forms. The little patch of darkness floats in silence while the appraisal crystal produces a short list only Ren and the court can see. Courier class. Disposal rift. One-way deposit. 1 object capacity. Non-combat. Sarik checks the crystal twice. The oracle reads it out. Courier class, a utility skill for removing objects. 1 moves Ren's name from the combat roster to logistics. His public future shrinks to the size of the black oval over his hand. The room breaks into laughter. Did the kingdom summon a hero, one classmate says, or a garbage collector? Let him clean up after the wyvern, a noble adds. Even a few priests smile, which is brave considering they were hiding behind shields a minute ago. Asta looks at Mia. The tiny portal does that for him. Mia's Covenant glows silver against his arm. She avoids Ren's eyes. Ren turns his hand under the floating rift. The surface absorbs every trace of light. Whatever the skill does, it is waiting for him to place something inside. Test it on something real, Sarik says. Sarik selects a rusted ceremonial blade with a broken tip. The royal armory has already marked it for melting, so nobody expects it back. More importantly, the court has formally discarded it. He lowers it into the rift. The entire blade slides into a space far smaller than the object and vanishes. Then the portal becomes empty again. Nothing comes back. The laughter gets louder. Conclusive, Sarek says. As far as the court is concerned, Ren has awakened the magical trash hole, but a blade-shaped mark appears along the rift's inner rim. One narrow groove beside it glows. So the first blade did something. Give me another broken blade, Ren says. Do not waste royal steel on him, Asta says, laughing. Then he draws a chipped training knife from his belt. Asta tests the damage with his thumb, decides it is beneath him, and kicks it across the marble. It stops at Ren's boot. It is yours now, Asta says. Ren crouches but does not touch it yet. Do you want it back if this fails? Keep it, Asta says. I have royal smiths now. That answer matters more than the insult. Ren picks up the chipped knife and drops it into the rift. The second groove lights. Ren sees two blades fill two parts of one hidden pattern, with one groove left dark. The portal is waiting for one more cutting tool. He is watching the disposal rack. Asta mistakes the calm for surrender. He steps away from Mia. Stop pretending a failed trick deserves everyone's time, he says. He says nothing. He says nothing. Asta grips the front of Ren's shirt and shoves him out of the damaged circle. The rift collapses above Ren's palm. Guards move in, but Asta raises one hand to stop them. Back off, he tells them. He can lower his head on his own. Ren looks once at Asta's hand twisted in his collar. Let go of me. Then he punches him. One hit. Clean across the mouth. Asta releases him and stumbles into the edge of the awakening circle. The hall goes silent. Blood touches Asta's lower lip, and his expression changes faster than any appraisal result. Behind him, the tyrant wyvern surges upright, wings striking the pillars and heat flooding the hall. Hold, Asta says. The beast takes one more step toward Ren before a red chain catches its throat and forces it still, claws grinding fresh lines through the marble. Elara's pen records it as the wyvern's second ignored command. The king rises from his throne again. This time, nobody cheers. King points at Ren. Another locks an iron restraint around his wrist, and the remaining two put spears between him and the awakening circle. Asta wipes the blood from his lip. Let me answer this myself. No, the king says. The throne decides what happens in this hall. He cannot fight, Sarek says. Call it a survival qualification, Sarek says. He goes outside the western barrier, no escort, reach a registered border settlement under his own power. In other words, if he dies, the paperwork stays clean. The king approves the qualification. A useless one stops costing us resources. Mia takes one step forward, but the silver covenant pulls tight between her and Asta. She stops. Hana does not stop. She pushes through two classmates, ducks around a guard, and reaches Ren before the soldiers can drag him from the hall. Sending him out with nothing tests starvation, not ability, Hana says. Then Hana presses something small into Ren's free hand. It is a brass university keychain shaped like a compass. Bring it back to me, she says. Ren closes his fingers around it. The guards pull him away. Professor Elara watches from behind the royal mages. While Sekrik seals the appraisal record, she points a spatial lens at the air above Ren's palm and quietly asks him to open the rift once more. The apple-wide oval appears despite the iron restraint. Elara's lens maps the portal's edge, then loses every line aimed at its center. The two vanished blades leave no matching residue in the hall. Elahra records the impossible signature before a guard orders Ren to close the skill. By sunset, the western barrier fills Ren's entire view. Soldiers remove his restraint at a service gate, point toward a broken trade road, and tell him the nearest registered settlement is Ashbraj. The barrier closes behind him before he can ask how far. Ren checks what he has. Hana's keychain stays in the smallest inner pocket, wrapped in cloth so the brass cannot tear free. His actual combat inventory is even simpler. Nothing. Ren follows the trade road until the first set of claw marks crosses it. Ren leaves the road. The horned boar finds him anyway. So he watches how it turns. Boar lowers its head before each charge and commits to a straight line. Ren runs across a rain-cut slope where cedar roots split the ground into narrow shelves. One tusk rakes Ren's upper arm. At the bottom of the slope, a runoff trench cuts between two boulders. Ren jumps the gap, lands badly, and rolls onto his injured shoulder. Its front legs clear the trench. Its heavier rear half does not. Mud collapses under it. He uses that time to crawl through a split in the boulders too narrow for its shoulders, then keeps walking until the screams fade. That is his first victory in this world, being somewhere else when the monster gets free. Night catches him short of Ashbridge. Ren crests a low ridge and finally sees smoke, patched roofs, and a crooked wooden sign naming Ashbridge. Nobody waits at the gate to celebrate a summoned hero. Name, a board clerk says without looking up. Ren Rook. The clerk looks at the blood on his sleeve and stamps the survival petition without asking his rank. Ren needs food now. He follows the sound of a hammer to a stall crowded with cracked axles, bent hinges, and farm tools held together by wire. A broad-shouldered woman named Tessa is arguing with a wagon owner. Her younger apprentice, Finn, is trying to force an iron brace over a split-wheel hub. It has to fit, Finn says, and raises the hammer again. Turn the brace, Ren says. Set it on the good grain. I shave the swollen edge, you feed me. Tessa looks at his bandage, then at his empty belt. You a carpenter? She asks. I am hungry, Ren says. That answer gets him a rasp. She waits until the bowl is empty. So what is your class? She asks. Ren opens the disposal rift. It takes things people throw away, Ren says. Tessa points at a scrap crate. Sort the useful metal first and the rest is yours. Ren begins testing. A snapped buckle strikes the rift's surface and bounces off. None matches the blade symbol. Damage is not the rule. Purpose is. Finn checks under the bench. The old carving knife, he says. The one you stopped using. Tessa retrieves it from a drawer. She turns it once in her hand, then holds it out. For the wheel, she says. Are you lending it to me? Ren asks. No. Fixing it costs more than replacing it, Tessa says. Finn is not allowed loose handles. I am not asking for it back. The knife is yours. The final dark groove waits around his portal. Ren takes the worn carving knife, opens the rift over his palm, and lowers the blade into the darkness. The third knife disappears. The final groove ignites. Disposal rift jerks against Ren's palm and swells from an apple-wide oval into a black opening as tall as his chest. Wind pulls loose papers across Tessa's workbench. The rejected buckle and hammer head rattle inside the scrap crate. Finn leans closer. Tessa catches the back of his shirt and drags him away. The 3 blade marks around the rift fold into one red line. Something strikes the darkness from inside. The portal stretches, spits out a wrapped hilt, and drops a sword point first into the repair stall floor. No hand follows it. No figure stands beyond the opening. There is only flat darkness, one impossible weapon, and a hole in Tessa's floor deep enough to make her forget the knife she just gave away. The rift contracts over Ren's hand. The sword remains. A name burns above it where only Ren's portal display should be. Bloodfang. SSS. The rank makes even less sense than the sword. Tessa locks the stall door. Then she picks up her forge hammer. What did you just bring into my shop? She asks. Finn backs into the repaired wagon wheel, knocks it over, and does not notice. Neither kneels, cheers, nor calls Ren a hero. They look like 2 people deciding whether an illegal relic is about to get them executed. Reasonable reaction. Ren approaches the sword carefully. The portal gave it to him, but 3 ruined blades should not contain enough metal to forge something this large. The surface carries no hammer marks Tessa recognizes. Ren closes his hand around the grip. Pain shoots through his bandaged arm. The sword is not impossibly heavy. It is worse. The instant he tries to move it, Bloodfang pulls at muscles that do not know how to carry its power. His scraped palm opens under the grip. His bruised shoulder locks and the shallow tusk cut tears against the bandage. Ren gets the point out of the floor, but only barely. A second line appears beside the weapon's name. Synchronization stops at 0.4%. Most of Bloodfang's functions remain dark because Ren has no aura foundation to reach them. He has somehow acquired an SSS weapon before acquiring the body needed to swing it. Fantastic ordering. Did that come out of the 3 broken tools? Finn asks. That is the only explanation I have, Ren says. That is not an explanation, Tessa says. The town alarm interrupts them. 1 bell rings from the market gate. Then, a cart overturns outside, followed by the sound of timber snapping. Tessa unlocks the door just enough to look through the gap. The horned boar from the trade road crashes into Ashbridge. Mud still covers its hindquarters from the runoff trench. 1 tusk is broken. The other now carries half a market awning. It followed the road, Ren's blood, or both, and it has reached the settlement in a much worse mood. Boar slams a produce cart aside and charges the repair row. People scatter between stalls. The kid is at the well, someone screams. A child freezes beside the stone well while the animal lowers its head. Ren moves before he has a plan good enough to deserve the word. He drags Bloodfang through the doorway with both hands. The blade cuts a line through the dirt because his shoulder cannot hold it level. You cannot even lift that, Tessa shouts. Ren already knows. He also knows how the boar turns. Ren steps between the well and the repair stall. The beast sees the person who escaped it and commits to another straight charge. Bloodfang shakes in Ren's hands. His injured palm slips against the grip. He does not try to overpower the monster. At the last moment, Ren drops his weight and rests the sword's spine across the iron rim of Tessa's wheel stand. The stand carries the weapon. Ren only has to aim the edge. The boar swerves too late. Bloodfang scratches its shoulder. That is all. The animal barrels past Ren, clips the well, and skids through a rack of wooden handles. The cut is so shallow that Tessa starts running toward the child instead of watching the monster. Then blood beads along the scratch. The blade is nowhere near it, but the wound keeps opening. A thin line becomes a stream. The stream becomes a sheet running down the boar's leg. Each time the beast tries to stand, another pulse of dark red spills across its hide. Finn stares at Bloodfang's clean edge. It is still bleeding, he says. Nothing is even touching it. The boar reaches the end of the lane, staggers once, and collapses. Its legs kick against the mud. The wound continues draining until the animal stops moving. Ren never landed a real strike. He did not need one. The display beside Bloodfang reveals the active trait only after the proof is lying in the street. Endless bleed continues damage after the blade leaves a wound. Tessa checks the monster from behind an overturned cart. Finn checks the tiny scratch. Then both look back at Ren holding an SSS sword with 2 shaking hands. That is when Bloodfang slips from his grip. The point buries itself in the dirt. Ren's injured shoulder gives out, fresh blood soaks through his bandage, and his opened palm will not close properly. The weapon killed the boar, but one supported motion has nearly used everything his current body can offer. Less than 1% is enough to kill a monster. It is not enough to survive a real fight. Ren needs aura. At the Royal Magic Ukadume, Professor Elara's spatial lens screams. She left it tuned to the signature Dispelhazel rift produced in the summoning hall. Now, its needle reverses direction and slams against the incoming side of the scale. A large mass has appeared in Ashbridge without crossing any measured distance between the border and the academy. Elara checks the time against Ren's survival record. The signal comes from the same town that just registered him. She cannot see Bloodfang. She cannot identify a source. She only knows the portal signature has changed from missing mass to incoming mass. Elara marks the reading and starts a second test. Back in Ashbridge, Tessa wraps Bloodfang in 2 layers of oilcloth. Finn helps Ren tie the bundle to the repaired handcart because carrying it on his injured shoulder is not happening twice. They load the boar behind it as proof and push everything toward the local guild branch. Guild Assessor Darren Vale meets them at the appraisal counter. He listens to Tessa's account, checks Finn's matching version, and inspects the dead boar. The wound bothers him. The sword bothers him more. Dayren places Ren's hand on the guild crystal. Courier appears again. Dispelhazel Rift appears again. The crystal finds no combat class, no aura foundation, and almost no conventional output. Ren's Ashbridge petition proves he survived the qualification, but it does not turn him into a fighter. Then Dayren unwraps Bloodfang. The weapon's rank pushes the appraisal crystal blank. Red light floods its center, climbs past every marked tier, and fractures a hairline to the glass. Darren covers the sword again immediately. "Where did you steal it?" Darren says. "Nobody stole it," Tessa says. "The portal threw it into the street." Finn describes the 3 broken blades. Darren does not call them liars, but he refuses to accept an SSS relic as proof that its owner possesses an SSS ability. An injured courier with no aura cannot legally control a weapon above the branch scale. Ren points to the boar. "An unregistered artifact killed it," Darren says. "That may qualify Ren to sell the carcass, but not to enter a dungeon as a fighter. If that sword fails you once, you have no defense, no technique, and no body that can carry it." Annoying. Also accurate. "Then which guild job puts me in a dungeon without fighter registration?" Ren says. Dayren studies him for a moment, then pulls the lowest contract from beneath the counter. "Porter and salvage assistant." "I accept," Ren says before Dayren finishes describing how little respect the job receives. The assessor pauses with one finger still on the contract. He had prepared warnings about no combat rank, no claim on intact monster cores, and no right to touch identified relics. "Keep going," Ren says, and now he listens for the useful part. "Porters manage the disposal ledger," Darren says. "You tag broken gear, sort hazardous remains, and write down what the combat party keeps. Anything the captain formally abandons, you carry out. And once it leaves the party ledger," Ren says, "then it is your disposal share, and the guild stops expecting it back." Darren thinks he's explaining garbage collection. Ren hears legal ownership transfer. He signs. By morning, Captain Oren has him walking toward an abandoned quarry dungeon with an iron salvage frame strapped around his waist. The frame carries empty sorting trays, chalk, seal tags, tongs, rope, and the oilcloth-wrapped Bloodfang. Ren is not hauling everyone's luggage. His job is deciding which dangerous leftovers can leave the dungeon without poisoning the road home. Oren leads a shield bearer, a spear fighter, and an alchemist. He reads Darren's notes while they move. "Draw it," he says. "Let me see how far you get." Ren gets 6 inches of dark red blade free before his shoulder locks. "Wrap it back up," Oren says. "An artifact that can kill its owner through bad handling is not a combat plan." Finally, an authority figure with eyes. The quarry gate opens beneath a collapsed stone crane. Blue mineral light leaks through the tunnel walls. Oren explains salvage shares while the party descends instead of making everyone stand through a guild lecture. An intact monster core belongs to whoever holds the combat claim, and a cracked one sells for less than the extraction fee, Oren says. Usable weapons go back to their owners. Broken weapons stay theirs until they sign a discard tag. Failed potions are hazardous stock until the alchemist releases them. Nothing becomes Ren's just because it falls on the floor. The first ore crawler attacks beside a flooded rail trench. Its blue core comes out whole. Oren seals it in the party chest. Valuable, intact, and completely useless to Ren because nobody has abandoned it. The second crawler dies under a fallen support beam. Its core cracks between the stones and leaks most of its mana into the ground. Same monster. Very different value. Ren records every transfer. Then the quarry ceiling moves. A third crawler drops behind the party instead of charging Oren's shield. Its 4 legs strike the alchemist and throw her across the rail trench. The others turn, but the first impact collapses a shelf of loose stone between them. Ren is left on the wrong side, with an injured alchemist and a monster blocking the only clear tunnel. Bloodfang remains fixed to the salvage frame because his shoulder cannot carry it. The crawler advances anyway. Ren releases the frame's waist catch and lets the iron rig fall flat. Bloodfang lands across its longest support bar. He pulls back the oilcloth, exposing one edge without trying to lift the sword. The crawler raises a stone leg to crush him. Ren hooks the salvage rope around that leg and dives sideways. The creature tears the rope free, but the pull turns his body just enough. Its softer lower joint scrapes across Bloodfang's exposed edge. The cut barely shows. The Ren's injured palm opens from the rope. His shoulder hits the ground and pain wipes out the next breath. He does not have to. Blood starts leaking through the crawler's stone plates. The monster takes 2 more steps. Each movement widens the hidden wound until red fluid pours down the leg and floods the cracks in its body. Oren clears the rock shelf in time to watch it collapse. The captain checks the alchemist first. Then he examines Bloodfang, the support bar, the rope burn across Ren's bleeding palm, and the one shallow line on the crawler's joint. Listen up, Oren says. Ren stopped the rear attack and saved our alchemist. He records the contribution under Ren's name rather than calling it an accident or awarding it to the weapon. Good improvising, terrible fundamentals, he tells Ren. The contract offers Ren a small coin share. Keep the coin, he says. Give me first claim on anything the party already marked, failed, broken, or too costly to recover. Take all of it, the spearfighter says before Ren finishes. Oren grants Ren a contribution share from the dead crawler and signs over the damaged items nobody else wants. The cloudy mana tonic becomes legal disposal. So does a torn restoration strip ruined by quarry water, a healing ampoule cracked inside the alchemist's case, and a fractured aura catalyst found in the crawler's chest cavity. The intact blue core remains in the party chest. The 4 damaged aura items target Bloodfang's real bottleneck, Ren's body. Back at the Ashbridge Guild, Darren reads Oren's report twice. He still does not grant fighter registration, but he cannot erase the captain's signature. Ren locks the cracked blue core fragments and shattered buckler in his signed salvage locker for later recipes, leaving only the 4 aura-related items on the disposal tray. He takes the tray to the salvage yard behind the guild. The cloudy monotonic disappears into disposal rift. A new symbol forms along the rim, shaped like a broken circle around a pulse of light. The circle stays broken. Something is still missing. The ruined restoration strip follows. So does the damaged healing ampoule. The cracked aura catalyst enters last. Nothing returns. The 4 materials belong to the same broad problem, but the private pattern remains open. Ren can see that the rift recognizes restoration and mana. He cannot see what relationship the batch still lacks. Hana finds him staring at the incomplete mark. She has followed his stamped qualification through the border registry and completed enough of her own guild processing to reach the salvage yard. She does not ask why he failed to send for her. She looks at the blood soaking his fresh palm bandage, the oilcloth bundle beside him, and the empty disposal tray. You have been productive, she says. What do you need? Something that builds an aura foundation, Ren says. Without killing me. Hana crouches beside the rift and activates Rune Threed for the first time. Fine silver lines leave her fingertips, touch the residue each item left on the disposal tray and transfer tags, and reconstruct the damaged magic they once carried. The tonic restores mana. The strip repairs tissue. The ampoule accelerates healing. The catalyst amplifies aura. 4 useful effects, but their broken lines all terminate at the same missing structure. Hana traces the empty space between them. The batch does not need more power. It needs something capable of holding that power inside a human body. Hana's rune thread snaps toward the quarry transfer tag. The silver line ignores Ren's signed locker. The cracked blue core fragments carry monster mana, and the shattered buckler carries barrier magic. Neither knows how to hold power inside a human body. The transfer tag does. Its residue comes from an emergency channel brace installed in the quarry's abandoned recovery station. Ren brings him the tag. Darren refuses to fund an expedition for broken medical equipment. If Ren and Hana retrieve it without risking a full party, Oren will condemn it and transfer the remains. They enter the quarry through the drainage route before midday. The old chamber sits behind a collapsed rail wall, half filled with mana-rich water. Every few seconds, the broken brace discharges a pulse through the pool and turns the surface white. The pulses are slowing. When they stop, the brace dies for good. Ren cannot touch it directly. He anchors the salvage rope around a ceiling pin while Hana threads the shattered frame pieces together from a distance. The next pulse hits early. Ren yanks the rope, pulls her off the flooded ledge, and takes the edge of the discharge across his injured arm. His fingers go numb, but the rope holds. Hana binds only the 3 channel-bearing pieces. Just one ruined tool trying very hard to electrocute its rescuers. Oren meets them at the guild gate, verifies the fragments against the original equipment seal, and signs the condemnation. The human channel lattice becomes Ren's legal salvage. He carries it straight to Dispolhazel Rift. The broken brace disappears. Hana's silver lines follow it to the portal edge, and the incomplete circle around the pulse symbol finally closes. The rift expands. A sealed glass vial rolls out of the darkness and lands in Ren's disposal tray. Clear liquid fills the bottom, but gold light turns inside it like a slow flame. The portal display identifies one result. Divine Foundation Elixir. Do not drink unknown portal liquid in a salvage yard, Hana says. Ren agrees. Then, he takes it to the guild's recovery spring so he can drink the unknown portal liquid somewhere with healers nearby. Progress. The spring occupies a stone chamber under the guild infirmary. Warm mana water reaches Ren's chest while a healer removes his old bandages and orders him not to move the injured shoulder. Bloodfang rests outside the chamber. The blue core fragments and shattered buckler remain sealed in his salvage locker. Hana sits at the spring's edge with her boots off and trousers rolled above her knees. Rune thread stays connected to Ren's wrists and chest so she can see how the elixir moves. There is nothing decorative about the setup until Ren notices how close she has to lean to keep all 3 lines stable. Eyes up, courier, Hana says. Focus on not dying. Fair point. Ren drinks. The liquid reaches his stomach and turns into heat. Gold light races through channels that do not exist yet. It carves them anyway. Ren's back arches against the spring wall. The water around him boils, his upper arm cut opens beneath the healer's fresh wrap, and every damaged line in his palm burns toward his heart. A knot of aura forms behind his ribs. Then it tries to pull the rest of his body into itself. Hana catches the collapse first. Her rune threads tighten around the new channels and stop 3 from folding across one another. She orders the healer to cool the spring, forces Ren's shoulders under the water, and makes him release each breath before the next pulse hits. The 4th pulse tears a channel along his bruised shoulder. Hana takes his hand under the water and reroutes the escaping aura through the least damaged line. She stays there while the spring turns red around his bandages and the new core beats against his chest like a second heart. Hours pass before the pulse is slow. Ren wakes with his head against the stone rim and Hana still holding 2 rune threads against his wrist. She has not slept. The healer has changed his bandages twice. His body feels hollowed out, but when he breathes, a thin current of aura finally answers. He can lift his injured arm without the shoulder locking. Not high. Not for long. Backing, but Bloodfang is no longer the only powerful thing he owns. Hana brings the wrap sword to the infirmary courtyard before the appraisal. Ren feeds the new current from his chest into the hilt. Bloodfang's crimson channels answer for the first time. He lifts the weapon clear of its wooden cradle and draws half the blade with both hands instead of resting it on a metal frame. Then the new shoulder channel flares. Hana cuts the aura flow with rune thread before it tears again. Bloodfang drops back into the cradle. Ren can finally reach the weapon, but his foundation is fresh, damaged, and nowhere near ready for a sustained fight. Still, 0.4% is no longer a wall. It is a starting point. Diane tests him the next morning. He uses a fresh guild crystal and makes Ren leave Bloodfang outside. The crystal first displays courier and no combat output, exactly as expected. Then it detects the new aura core. The reading splits. A 3rd line claims the core has no registered formation path at all. Diren calls the test contaminated. Oren points out that the only new object in the room is Ren. He cannot call Ren powerful because the crystal refuses a stable rank. He also cannot call him empty anymore. At the Royal Training Grounds, Asta Vane clears the Storm Bastion trial. Royal mages release an armored siege drake above a ring of lightning towers. Asta mounts the Tyrant Wyvern, drives it through the first barrage, and breaks the drake's wing with a clean land strike. Nia's life covenant shares his resistance through the impact and seals the burns across his arm before the final pass. Asta earns the victory. The watching officers cheer because his timing is good, Mia's support is precise, and the target falls in under the academy record. On the final dive, the wyvern banks away from Asta's command. Red chains lock across its neck and wings. His 3rd aura surge forces it through the lightning ring. Maya takes every forced pulse through the covenant and is still recovering when a royal clerk delivers the Ashbridge report. Ren survived the qualification. He possesses a weapon that cracked a guild appraisal crystal, earned a recorded dungeon contribution, and now produces an aura reading the branch cannot classify. Maya reads the report twice. Then she calls the weapon contraband and the dungeon credit luck. A real power would have appeared in the royal appraisal. A real aura foundation would produce a stable rank. The explanation protects her choice, so she keeps it. Professor A. Yalra receives the same report beside her incoming mass records, and Triple S weapon appears where her lens detected impossible mass. Days later, Ren's body develops an aura core with no registered formation path. Elara stops sending requests through Sarik. She packs her spatial instruments, opens a transit gate to Ashbridge, and walks into the guild. Professor Elahra has come to investigate Ren personally. Professor Elahra walks past De Ren and stops in front of Ren. She introduces herself as the Royal Majik Ukadumi's spatial magic professor. I want to examine Dispahazel Rift, she says. No greeting about the weather. No comment on Bloodfang. Her attention stays on Ren's right hand. What does examine include? Ren asks. Spatial anchors, controlled deposits, aura tracing, residue capture, and repeated measurements under different conditions, Elara says. De Ren hears a royal professor requesting access, and assumes the answer is already yes. No, Ren says. That gets Elara to look at his face. I will run limited tests, he says. But I pick every input, I keep every return, I get copies of all results, and I stop whenever I want. Bloodfang and his new aura core require separate permission, and no academy official takes my portal because a crystal does not like the reading. Derain looks offended on behalf of institutions everywhere. Elah considers the terms instead of pulling rank. Then she adds her own. I choose the measuring equipment, and I record each approved test without a break, she says. She also receives samples of any harmless residue left outside the rift. One more thing, Hana says. His new channels go unstable, we stop. Ren agrees. Oren witnesses the agreement and stamps each term. Diane tries to add a clause. The guild gets first claim on anything made in its yard, he says. Ren taps the term that preserves every return. Elara crosses out Daren's addition herself. Changing ownership during an experiment ruins the data, she says. They move to the guild's stone loading yard. Elara places 6 silver anchor crystals around a waist-high table. Each crystal maps a different spatial possibility: hidden storage, folded distance, teleportation, destruction, summoning, and ordinary displacement. Hana checks Ren's shoulder channels with rune thread, while Orin clears everyone else behind a safety line. For the input, Elara produces a ruined Academy research folio scheduled for pulping. The binding is burned, half the formulae are obsolete, and the Academy registrar has stamped it as discarded. Who still wants this? Ren asks. He makes her confirm the transfer anyway. Elara notices that question. Most people ask what rank an artifact is. Ren asks who still wants it. The folio enters Dispahazal Rift. 5 anchor crystals remain dark. The 6th points outward. Its silver needle does not bend toward a hidden pocket or another location in the yard. It drives past the crystal's mapped edge and keeps moving after the folio's mass vanishes from every local measure. Elara leans closer. The portal is not holding the book behind its surface. It is not reducing the folio to mana. The matter crosses the experiment boundary, but none of her anchors can find where it arrives. Then the 6th crystal overloads. The outgoing vector catches Elahara's spatial field and yanks her across the table. She grabs Ren's forearm before his unstable shoulder follows the pull. Hold on, she says. Thread, Hana says, and locks rune thread around his new channels. For 1 second, all 3 of them are holding different parts of the same bad decision. A silver anchor tears free. It slices through Elara's outer robe from shoulder to waist and burns away one heavy blue layer. The fitted sleeveless mage garment beneath it survives. So does Elahara's concentration. Half the guild discovers an urgent interest in spatial research. The spatial meter is on fire, Orin says. Elara ignores both problems. She keeps one hand around Ren's wrist and redirects the outgoing force through her own field. Tighten the shoulder thread, she tells Hana. The final anchor catches. The reading stabilizes. Matter is leaving local space. Not hiding. Not dissolving. Leaving. Elara verifies it 3 ways. The table loses the folio's exact weight. Ren gains none of it. The destruction crystal records no released mana, while the storage anchor finds no folded volume around the rift. Only the outward needle accounts for the missing mass, and it points beyond every coordinate the yard can measure. Elara keeps one hand around Ren's wrist after the danger passes. His new aura channels shake, but the outbound trace stays clean. The portal follows its own spatial law, independent of his unstable core. Elara releases Ren only after the last measurement seals itself into her crystal ledger. Then, she calmly removes the ruined outer robe and folds the surviving half over one arm. Do you have a room, she asks Orin, where people can remember how to behave professionally? Orin finds one very quickly. Inside, Elara places the outbound trace beside her earlier incoming mass record from Ashbridge. The signatures match. Dispahazal Rift sent the folio somewhere, and the same spatial law delivered Bloodfang back. She still has no destination, no endpoint, and no explanation for the exchange. But she finally has direction. What does the Academy own that is already formally discarded? Ren asks. Elara smiles for the first time. Not because he is charming. Because he understood exactly what her evidence is worth. We have a failed artifact vault, and you get supervised access, she says. It contains ruined, enchanted tools, broken ritual components, collapsed spell matrices, spatial scraps, and magical research too damaged for ordinary scholars to use. In exchange, I watch on a schedule, and I study every return without claiming it, she says. By afternoon, her transit gate carries Ren and Hana into the Academy's failed artifact vault. Bloodfang remains secured in Orin's Ashbridge locker, with the cracked blue core fragments and shattered buckler. Ren's palm is bandaged, his upper arm is healing, and the spatial backlash has left the fresh shoulder channel aching but intact. The vault is 3 floors of expensive failure. Its registrar sees courier on Ren's papers and blocks the inner gate. Elara presents the negotiated observation contract and signs a temporary research permit under her own authority. More importantly, every transfer now carries the Academy's seal, so nobody can later call the input stolen. Broken wands fill iron bins. Failed ritual plates hang from numbered hooks. Spatial devices with warning seals occupy an entire wall. Ren ignores the impressive-looking pieces and checks the discard stamps. Elara assigns him a locked work table and makes the vault registrar transfer each approved object in writing. The first knowledge batch uses 4 condemned texts, the burned research folio from the experiment, a water-damaged rune atlas, a spellbook whose pages fused during a mana fire, and a failed self-indexing thesis that erased its own references. All 4 share one purpose. They were built to preserve, organize, or explain magic. Hana confirms the shared function with rune thread. Elara confirms that none of the books retains an active curse or a recoverable original. Ren confirms the registrar has relinquished each one. 3 different checks, 1 clean batch. Dispahazal Rift accepts the atlas. The fused spellbook follows. The ruined thesis disappears last, and a page-shaped mark closes around the portal's rim. The rift opens wider than the books. A black volume slides onto the work table. Silver edges line its pages. A narrow crystal set into the cover opens like an eye, studies Ren, then studies the labeled vault bins. The book flips itself open and draws 3 connected circles across a blank page. Elara places a broken flame focus and a cracked heat control ring beside it. The book links them immediately. Hana adds a damaged water sigil. The book pushes that one away with its cover. It recognizes recipe relationships. The grimoire adds a third empty circle beside the flame focus and heat ring, 2 filled, 1 dark. Hana traces the gap and identifies a missing control function. When Elara substitutes a broken thermostat rune, the book closes all 3 circles. It can show why a family is incomplete before Ren wastes an input. Ren asks what the linked pair would produce. The pages turn blank. The living grimoire can identify compatible structures and missing functions, but it refuses or is unable to reveal an exact return. Ren has gained a better map, not a list of prizes. Elara records the distinction. Hana checks the symbols against every rune family she knows. The crystal eye turns toward Dispohazal Rift. A black rune appears across the open page, shaped like an arch split by a single road. The grimoire taps it once and speaks one word. Savra. Elara writes Savra beneath the grimoire's black rune and seals the page in her crystal ledger. Hana checks 3 Academy rune indexes. None contains the split arch or the word. Elara marks the term as foreign, source unknown, meaning unconfirmed. The vault alarm rings before anyone can invent a theory. A brass shock runs through the ceiling. Dust falls. Somewhere above them, glass breaks in a rhythm no glass should maintain. Elara grabs her instruments. Hana grabs Ren's good arm. The living grimoire snaps shut and launches itself under his elbow. They reach the central atrium as the Academy's casting orrery tears itself apart. 5 bronze rings spin beneath the glass dome. Each ring carries practice spellword to a different lecture wing. Today, the inner ring races backward while burning glyphs peel from its surface and strike the columns like thrown brands. 6 students crouch behind a failing containment screen. 2 senior artificers feed stabilizing crystals into the control dais. Every crystal makes the backward ring spin faster. The Academy has found an expensive way to lose more quickly. Elara orders the students evacuated. The containment screen refuses to open while the orrery remains charged. Ren does not touch the dais. He watches the silver recovery crystal at its center. Each time that crystal flashes, the inner ring jumps. He asks the artificer to cut the east feed for 1 count. The outer ring slows. The inner ring accelerates. He tries the west feed. The motion reverses, then rebounds twice as hard. Neither side is failing. Power is crossing between them and returning in the wrong shape. The living grimoire opens against Ren's chest. 4 linked circles appear across its pages. A 5th remains empty. One artificer offers an untouched A-rank regulator. The book slams its cover on the man's fingers. Hana traces the empty circle with rune thread. A pale strand leaves the page, crosses the dais, and disappears beneath a scorched brass panel. The head artificer admits the panel covers an old purge line. It leaked waste mana, so the Academy sealed it and installed the recovery crystal to recycle every pulse. No waste. Maximum efficiency. Also a magical wheel trying to murder 6 students. Elara wants 1 more powered cycle to map the feedback. Hana points to the tremor already moving through Ren's injured shoulder and refuses. They look at him. Ren chooses the cheaper test. He scatters chalk dust across the control dais. 4 grooves blow it away. The sealed groove pulls the dust inward. The missing function is not stronger control. The orrery needs somewhere to discard malformed spellwork. You fixed the trash chute until nothing could leave. The head artificer does not enjoy the summary. He does recognize it. Ren finds the purge chain behind the panel. He takes it with both hands but channels no aura. Hana braces his damaged shoulder with rune thread. Elara moves to the outer ring's manual brake. On Ren's count, she turns the ring sideways. He pulls. The old purge gate opens. Hundreds of broken glyphs pour from the orrery in a bright blue stream. They fall into the empty containment trough below and dissolve against its grounding salt. The backward ring loses speed. The recovery crystal dims. The trapped students run. 1 last bronze arm drops from the inner wheel. Ren shoves the head artificer clear. It strikes the dais where both men were standing and stops hard enough to crack the floor. Then the orrery settles into 5 slow circles. The grimoire closes the 5th circle on its page. Everyone in the atrium sees it. Students who called him a lucky porter now move aside when he crosses the floor. The alarm brings the Academy Provost and the Royal Ward Office. Sarek arrives through a transit gate with Asta and Mia behind him. The royal pair were already scheduled to inspect Academy-made wyvern gear on the training roof. Sarek sees Ren beside the ruined dais and asks why an exiled non-combat courier is inside a restricted system. Ella answers in front of the entire atrium. She recommends restricted contractor and research status under her supervision, with logged vault access and authority to assist on failed magical systems. Sarek says the royal appraisal already classified him. It classified his combat output, Elara says. It did not classify his judgment. She points to the stable orrery, the rescued students, and the sealed experiment ledger. Sarek argues that rewarding an unclassifiable portal creates a security risk. Elara replies that forcing it outside every accountable institution created the larger one. The provost chooses evidence. Sarek asks the Academy to hold the living grimoire until the palace decides whether a foreign-speaking artifact is contraband. Ren invokes the ownership terms Elara signed at Ashbridge. The Academy relinquished 4 condemned texts. The return belongs to him. Elara opens her ledger to the stamped agreement and adds that seizure would end every controlled portal observation she can defend. The provost refuses confiscation. She answers uncertainty with supervision instead. Ren's gray visitor permit turns blue. A narrow silver seal forms across it, restricted research contractor. He may enter approved failed artifact rooms, inspect condemned systems, and accept supervised academy work. Royal vaults and active weapons remain barred. The limits are real. So is the door. The head artificer signs Ren's first contractor credit before Sayric leaves the floor. Two apprentices who had blocked his path at the vault now carry the cracked dais plate to him and ask which failure marks should be preserved. His answer enters the repair order. Hana checks Ren's palm and reties the bandage the purge chain loosened. Her fingers stay on his wrist while rune thread counts the uneven pulses in his new channels. Elara hands Ren a copy of the failure report and tells the provost to list him as co-investigator. Mia watches both women. Hana handles Ren like someone who knew where he would break before anyone saw value in him. Elara waits for his judgment like his answer belongs in the official record. Maya had dismissed Bloodfang as contraband and his dungeon credit as luck. Luck does not make a royal professor defer. Maya takes one step toward him, then stops when Asta says her name. He has followed her gaze. Asta does not start another hallway argument. He asks the academy quartermaster what supplies Ren's portal requires. The answer he receives is incomplete: discarded weapons, failed artifacts, damaged magical research, and salvage. That is enough for a strong man used to buying the best version of everything. Before leaving the atrium, Asta commits his Storm Bastion reward and Royal Faction allowance to reserve every premium failed artifact offered by the academy. The hold lasts 1 month. He adds intact monster cores, high-grade damaged gear, and first selection from affiliated guild salvage lots. Maya asks what he is doing. Removing his fuel. Red reservation seals spread across the quartermaster's inventory slate. Elara loses several rare research pieces before she can object. Ren loses nothing he owned. Bloodfang, the cracked blue core fragments, and the shattered buckler remain secured in Oren's Ashbridge locker. The living grimware stays under his arm. Asta reserves by rank, not compatibility. The quartermaster's staff must now separate every premium piece from the academy's disposal loads. That leaves carts of cracked, scorched, incomplete, low appraisal material blocking the loading court. A broad man in an orange guild coat watches the carts multiply. Brass claim tags cover both sleeves, and one pencil lives permanently behind his ear. He introduces himself as Bram Cole, the guild's disposal market specialist. He tells Ren that rich buyers always reserve the pieces they can brag about. Sass. Bram makes his living knowing when disposal fees turn unwanted stock into a cheap legal claim. Who owns it at the bottom? Bram grins and shows him the transfer book. Once the academy condemns a load and the guild accepts disposal liability, Bram can split legal claims before destruction. Ren's new contractor seal lets him inspect, not take. A signed transfer can do the rest. He leads Ren, Hana, and Elara down 2 freight ramps into the academy disposal depot. The premium shelves stand nearly empty. Beneath them, broken tools, burned catalysts, split ritual housings, and cloudy cores fill iron cages from floor to ceiling. Bram kicks the brake off the newest cart. On its bottom shelf, black cracks run through a crate of shadow monster cores. Beside it sit sealed bins of inert failed familiar parts. Hana lowers rune thread into the cracked shadow cores. The pale strands pass through black fractures, cross the disposal cart, and catch on the sealed familiar bins. Different objects answer with the same pulse. Bram opens the first bin under a ward hood. Inside lie dead shell frames from familiars that never awakened, broken ceramic housings, and catalysts exhausted during failed bond rituals. Nothing breathes. Nothing contains a viable egg or active mind. The living grimoire flips open under Ren's hand. It links the shadow cores to the inert housings, then draws a dark border around the whole family. Its crystalline narrows. No exact return appears. Hana reads the shared job. The cores held shadow essence. The housings gave that essence a body pattern. The catalysts once invited a will to occupy it. Shadow essence. Body pattern. Invitation. Enough risk to test the living boundary first. Ren does not deposit anything. First, Bram secures ownership. He brings the academy registrar down to the depot, has every selected piece certified dead or inert, accepts the condemned load under the guild's disposal liability, then signs the matched subset to Ren. Elara orders a living boundary test before the batch begins. The academy provides a white courier beetle used to carry notes between greenhouse floors. Bram places it beneath an open, breathable ward hood. Bram lays one of the transferred dead housing fragments beneath it. Silk lines hold the fragment level inside a clear ward hood. The beetle can step away at any time. Ren opens Dispohazel rift beneath the testing hood and lowers the fragment until its edge touches the black surface. The rift hardens. It does not pull the dead housing, the beetle, or the silk lines. A cold pressure pushes the entire test piece back into Ren's hands. The beetle keeps eating. Conscious life is rejected. Ren lowers the same housing fragment again, with the same ownership seal and the same silk lines. Dispohazel rift accepts it immediately. The living presence was the only changed condition. The accepted dead housing becomes the batch's first input. Byver's Dispohazel rift accepts the first cracked shadow core. A smoke-colored crescent appears along its rim. Dead shell and broken familiar housing fragments follow. The crescent grows into the outline of a four-legged body. Ren deposits the exhausted catalysts last. The grimoire's dark border closes. Disposal rift drops to the depot floor. Its surface spreads wider than Bloodfang's blade and deeper than any shadow in the room. Elara's instruments show outward motion, then an incoming mass. No visible far side opens. Two smoke-dark paws reach out. A hound drags himself across the rim. He is alive. The creature stands barely to Ren's knee. Hunger shows between every rib. Black-gray fur fails to hide thin legs. One horn above his left eye is cracked, and smoke unravels from all four paws before gathering again. His eyes shine a dull violet. The portal closes behind him. The hound takes 2 steps, misjudges the height of the depot rail, and folds onto his chest. He scrambles upright before anyone can touch him. Weak is not an appraisal guess. It is the first thing he proves. Nobody speaks until Bram checks the transfer book, as if a clause might explain spontaneous dogs. Elara's earlier experiment proved matter leaves. Her instruments now prove living mass arrived. The conscious beetle could not cross inward, yet a conscious creature has crossed out. She records the contradiction and refuses to name a cause. The far side may be constructing, selecting, or doing something neither local verb covers. Evidence stops at alive. The academy moves the hound to the loading yard for appraisal. Students crowd the upper walkways. The same provost who signed Ren's contractor seal orders a familiar crystal brought under guard. The hound refuses the standard binding collar. He bares small teeth when an assessor lifts it, then retreats until his hind leg touches Ren's boot. Ren tells the assessor to test without a contract. 3 dull marks appear across its face. Failed shadow hound. No bonded master registers. The healer finds a thin but steady heartbeat, an incomplete shadow core, and no summoning brand. The creature is not an illusion wearing life signs. He is hungry, exhausted, and entirely alive. The crowd relaxes. A failed familiar makes more sense than an impossible one. The assessor offers to move him into academy containment. Number Ren looks down. The hound sniffs Bram's treat pouch, ignores the provost's handler, and studies Hana's open hand. Then, he turns once around Ren's boots and settles across them, thin body pressed against both ankles. Ren already knows what public labels do with incomplete evidence. He also knows the creature has been offered 3 safer handlers. No collar. No order. A choice. Ren invokes the return ownership clause and keeps him. Hana asks what she should put on the healer's intake sheet. Ren watches the smoke at the hound's paws stretch behind him like tomorrow arriving dark and hungry. Moro. The new name makes one torn ear lift. The appraisal should end there. A disposal porter wheels a cracked ritual housing across the yard and one broken seal catches on the cart rail. Black script spills out. The loose curse crawls across the paving stones toward the nearest living aura. Students jump back. The familiar assessor raises a ward, but the curse passes through it and climbs the edge of Ren's boot. Moro wakes. He bites the script. His teeth close on something with no body. The curse twists around his muzzle, hissing in 3 voices. Moro plants his smoke paws, tears the black letters off Ren's leg, and swallows them one burning line at a time. Violet light flashes through his ribs. Then he coughs one curl of black smoke and sits down. His hind legs give way a second later. Ren catches him under the chest before his cracked horn hits stone. The curse is gone, but the effort leaves Moro shaking hard enough to scatter smoke from his paws. The familiar crystal still calls him low rank. This time, nobody relaxes. Eladara checks the empty seal, Ren's aura, and Moro's mouth. The curse is gone, not transferred or suppressed. A failed shadow hound has consumed a free ritual curse that the assessor's ward could not stop. She adds that proof beneath the larger contradiction. Life refuses the inward route. Life returns through the outward one. The returned life also carries a function absent from every ingredient. The academy's training roof gate opens above the yard. Asta leads the tyrant wyvern down the broad ramp after its equipment inspection. Mia walks beside him, one hand near the silver mark of life covenant. The wyvern sees Moro. It stops. The great beast lowers its muzzle and draws one slow breath. Moro, still seated between Ren's boots, looks back. It does not growl or bow. Asta orders the wyvern forward. Its claws stay fixed. The second command carries a red chain of Dragon Knight aura. The wyvern's wings tighten, but its stare remains on Moro. Asta drives a harsher pulse through the bond. Stone cracks under one claw. The tyrant wyvern finally turns away and follows. Recognition, not fear. That is all Elara can record. The forced pulse travels through Mia's covenant. She flinches, steadies herself, and looks back. Hana is kneeling beside Moro with water in her palm. The hound drinks, then allows her to wipe cursed soot from his cracked horn. Ren crouches on the other side, holding a strip of dried meat while Hana checks the unstable shadow lines beneath the thin fur. She breaks the meat into pieces small enough for his tired jaw. Ren supports Moro's ribs until the shaking stops. No bond mark forces the hound to stay when he can finally stand. Moro relaxes between them. Mia sees a small life choose the place she left. She keeps walking with Asta. Moro finishes the meat. His nose lifts. He turns away from the food, the wyvern, and every ordinary scent in the loading yard. Smoke gathers around his paws as he follows an invisible line across the stones. Hana casts rune thread over the trail and finds nothing. Elara's spatial needle stays still. Even the living grimoire shows a blank page. Moro continues anyway. The line crosses the academy gate and joins the wheel tracks used by outbound guild cleanup wagons. The hound lowers his cracked horn, scents the empty road, and pulls Ren after a foreign portal residue nobody else can sense. Moro follows the academy wagon tracks into Ashbridge's guild yard and stops beside 3 condemned cleanup carts. Captain Oren stamps Ren's cleanup license in front of the guild line. "Hazardous cleanup," he says. "Yours." Oren reads the grounds aloud. Academy report, quarry credit, salvage work, 1 witnessed curse. Those qualify Ren for hazardous cleanup contracts. You get first look at any gear or materials a registered team abandons after a clear, Oren says. He taps the last line. No intact loot, no assigned monster shares, nothing without a relinquishment mark. The contract is narrow. It is also exactly wide enough. Foreign residue clings to the condemned carts for Moro's nose alone. Oren simply adds him to the hazard ledger and keeps reading the new rights aloud. The hound paws 1 wheel, then noses the claim tags hanging from the axle. Ren copies the route numbers into his recipe ledger. Whatever Moro smells travels through the same ordinary disposal network Ren now has permission to follow. Asta's faction reacts before Ren can take his first jaw. Red reservations already cover Premium Academy salvage. Now, faction buyers offer Ashbridge brokers retainers to withhold cracked cores, failed gear, and condemned tools from Ren. They target Bram in the middle of the guild hall where everyone can watch. Within an hour, 3 salvage board listings vanish. A 4th returns at 6 times yesterday's price. Asta is not trying to insult Ren anymore. He is pricing the air out of the room. The broker drops a heavy purse on Bram's table. 30 days, he says. Nothing to Ren. The contract forbids Bram from selling, gifting, or transferring any salvage he personally owns to Ren for 30 days. Bram reads it twice. Generous, he says. He signs and pockets the money. Hana catches him at the door. You want to explain that? Business is business, he says, and leaves. That afternoon, the Ashbridge disposal auction opens behind the guild stables. Main lot contains an entire season of broken mining picks, snapped harvest hooks, cracked mana drills, ruined shield frames, and failed barrier plates. Disposal liability keeps every respectable bidder silent. 8 wagons, the auctioneer calls. Cleared before the rain reaches the curse seals. He wraps the block. Take 1 good piece, you take all 8 loads. 2 noble agents lower their paddles. They wanted treasure, not chores. Bram raises Ren's number. The whole lot, he says. He uses the faction purse as the bidding bond and wins the whole lot as Ren's registered disposal agent. D goes to Ren, he tells the clerk. The guild transfers ownership directly to Ren. Bram never owns, sells, gifts, or transfers 1 scrap. He places the rival's contract beside the guild deed. Read both, he says. I supplied nothing. Even Oren needs a moment. Read that last part again, he says. Bram also charges Ren his normal agent's commission. Standard rate, he says. Loyalty does not require poor bookkeeping. Ren signs for the lot. Asta's money pays the removal fee, the auction bond, and the first wagon to Ren's workyard. Hana and the living grimoire sort the harvesting family first. Blunted core chisels separate useful material. Snapped hooks pull value from carcasses. Broken drills open ore without ruining it. All failed at extraction, not combat. The grimoire pushes every shield frame to the far end of the table. Useful does not mean compatible, and a large auction is only a resource if Ren refuses to force the wrong batch. Ren retrieves the cracked blue core fragments from Oren's signed locker. The grimoire places them in the missing power circle. Their old job was concentrating mana inside a damaged structure. That is close enough. Dispo Hezelrift takes the ruined tools and every blue core fragment. A compact black haft returns across the work table. 2 silver jaws fold from its head, thin enough to enter a crack and strong enough to open around it. The guild crystal identifies a high-grade trocut extractor. It separates a chosen component along its existing failure lines instead of smashing through everything around it. Trocut cannot create ore inside plain stone or repair a component already burned to ash. It preserves value that rough removal would destroy. Ren tests it on a fused hinge, and the intact ward pin rolls onto the table while the slag stays behind. It is useless as a sword. Ren likes it immediately. Oren sends him to the black glass tunnels, where a noble team has cleared a mana drill collapse and claimed the obvious crystals. Their contract relinquishes the fused machinery, cracked wall veins, and buried support arrays. The tunnels are still shedding glass splinters when Ren enters. Oren braces the ceiling. Hana marks live conduits with rune thread. Moro remains behind the safety rope and growls whenever a curse seam runs under the floor. He does not grow larger, darker, or stronger. He simply keeps the porters off bad stone. Kokut touches the first lump of melted metal. Bottle and Pete's silver lines race through the rubble. Ren turns the haft once, and an intact control plate slides free without losing a rune. A second pull removes 3 lengths of unburned mana conduit. The drill's sealed reservoir comes out last, still holding enough charge to power an academy workroom. The noble team left that reservoir because one wrong hammer strike would have detonated it. Throw-cut follows the reservoir's cracked mounting ring and never touches the charged shell. Orin watches the entire removal before adding it to Ren's credited yield. Other salvagers recover a cart of scrap. Ren recovers 6 carts of components. By the third cleanup, he can pay guild bonds without borrowing, replace his torn field clothes, keep Moro fed on real meat, hire 2 porters at full rate, and reserve the next condemned lot before sunset. Tessa and Finn receive payment for every repair and meal they once gave him. The complaints arrive before the thank you does. One noble representative demands the guild invalidate old relinquishment marks retroactively. Another proposes capping how much value a cleanup worker may recover from debris. Ren asks whether the cap also limits how much loss a cleanup worker must absorb when the debris explodes. Nobody volunteers for that half of the rule. Orin posts the signed contracts on the guild board. The teams claimed every crystal they valued. They waived the cleanup debris to avoid carrying costs. Ren accepted the hazard, paid the bond, and touched nothing outside the relinquished list. You wrote the word worthless, Orin tells them. He just read it. The claims stand. By evening, 2 teams stop complaining long enough to hire Ren for their next cleanup. He prices the hazard, demands written ownership boundaries, and takes payment before opening the portal. The loop now funds itself without a royal purse. Success buys Ren a second batch. The auction's shattered shields share one purpose with broken barrier plates recovered from black glass, take force while something living remains behind them. Hana brings the shattered buckler from Orin's locker. Its grip supplies the missing human interface. The grimoire closes the defensive pattern. Dispohuzzle Rift consumes the buckler, shield frames, and failed barrier scraps. It returns a black hexagonal clasp that locks over Ren's sternum. Translucent plates spread across his torso, test his aura once, then vanish beneath his cloak. The appraisal names it Adaptive EGs. It learns damage after contact. Elara joins the contracted field window to measure the new relic. Hana keeps Moro behind Orin's cleared line. He remains a thin-failed shadowhound, still smoking at the paws and still low rank. Ren carries Bloodfang toward a dormant ruin sentry while Trokat opens a jammed access rail. The sentry wakes 20 paces away. Its first compression bolt crosses the gallery before Ren can lift Bloodfang into guard. The strike hits his chest. Adaptive Aegis forms after impact. Half the force still drives Ren into the wall, bruises his ribs, and empties his lungs. The plates catch the killing half and keep his spine intact. The sentry fires the same bolt again. This one breaks across a complete translucent shell. Then the ruin changes elements. A flame lash crosses the floor and burns Ren's forearm before the Aegis can learn heat. New damage still lands first. Orin's shield line drags Ren beyond the firing lane. Elara seals the burn and studies the defense trace. The relic can adapt after surviving a sample. It cannot give Ren that first sample for free. Hana throws rune thread around the damaged access rail. From cover, Ren sets Trokat's jaws into the rail's existing split and removes the sentry's feed plate. The next flame lash dies halfway across the floor. The gallery goes dark. Bloodfang can kill the sentry if Ren reaches it. The sentry can test 3 lethal damage types before he crosses 20 paces. Near the staging rail, the grimoire links a pair of ruined scout boots to a failed spatial burst rune. Elra's needle answers both. Ren marks them as the next legal batch. He does not need another weapon. He needs Rift Step before a stronger ranged enemy kills him on the way to Bloodfang range. Orin countersigns the black glass relinquishment marks before Ren touches the ruined scout boots. The souls still hold 12 interrupted stride runes. The failed spatial burst plate beside them can release distance but cannot decide where a body should arrive. Hana's rune thread joins storage to release. The living grimoire closes the pair. This Behuzzle Rift accepts both. 2 black ankle greaves return onto the staging rail. Broken silver rings circle each heel. When Ren fastens them over his boots, the rings fill one segment at a time as he walks. The appraisal gives them one useful name, Rift Step Greaves. 10 ordinary steps store 1 burst. 2 rings mean 2 charges. Each charge releases up to 8 paces in a straight line. Ren needs solid footing at the start, cannot turn during transit, and must walk again after both rings empty. The final warning is physical. Rift Step sends the burst through his fresh aura channels. Black glass provides the test before anyone can build a lecture around it. A second ruined sentry unfolds behind the lower gallery gate. Its targeting lens finds Ren while Orin's shield crew is still moving. Both silver heel rings are full from the staging rail. Ren plants his right foot. The gallery folds into one black line. He crosses 8 paces before the first bolt reaches his old position. There is no turn, blur, or graceful middle. One instant he stands beside Orin. The next he skids across intact stone with his ribs protesting. The sentry adjusts. Ren tries the second charge from loose glass. The left greave flashes and refuses. No footing, no step. A compression bolt catches his adaptive Aegis. The relic already knows the damage and spreads it across translucent plates. Ren kicks rubble aside, finds the iron rail beneath it, and plants again. The second rift step carries him to the sentry. He drives Trokat's silver jaws into the cracked targeting mount and removes the lens intact. The machine fires once into the ceiling, then dies. Both heel rings go dark. So does Ren's right leg. The two rapid bursts pull fire through the new channels behind his hip and ribs. His knee locks. Hana reaches him before he falls and knots rune thread around the strained pathways. Rift Step solves distance. It does not solve Ren's body. Alara is already measuring the two black lines left across the gallery. Her spatial needles point outward at each starting mark, vanish across the intervening distance, then reappear facing inward at each arrival. The signature matches Bloodfang's return, the knowledge batch, and the outgoing folio test. Rift Step does not move through the 8 local paces between points. For a fraction of a breath, it uses the same foreign spatial law as Dispohosal Rift's returns. Alara can prove one route family now. She needs the Academy's Convergence's Ure to map it precisely, and that creates the day's problem. Hana has secured a supervised route into the Moonfall Catacombs. Its lower stair opens during the evening mana ebb, exposing rare memory-bearing iron and abandoned shrine gear. The route can supply a future batch and closes again after 1 hour. Elara has 1 calibration slot before the Royal Academy formal. Once the Convergence's hall anchors lock for visiting factions, the array cannot run another private route test for a month. The result would enter the same hearing where Sarek plans to challenge Ren's portal access. Ren chooses the experiment. The catacomb route offers ingredients. The Convergence Ure can produce evidence today and protect every ingredient route after it. He asks Hana to reserve the next mana ebb instead of abandoning her map. Hana studies his shaking leg, then books the catacombs' next opening through Orin. At the Academy, Ren gives the heel rings time to recharge through ordinary walking. Elara's controlled test uses 1 burst across the empty Convergence Hall, while 9 silver arches record departure and arrival. All 9 agree with the field trace. Rift Step exits the local route, crosses no measurable space between, and returns under the same directional law as Ren's portal products. Elara seals the proof before the formal begins. The walk between the array, preparation rooms, and formal floor refills both Rift Step heel rings. Both are silver and full when the hall doors close. By evening, the Convergence Hall becomes a political arena. Ren wears a new black contractor coat over adaptive aegis. Rift Step's broken silver heel rings show beneath it. Moro stays beside him as a thin-failed shadow hound, 1 cracked horn level with Ren's knee and no evolution hidden under the smoke. Bloodfang rests in a reinforced rack within Ren's reach. Throat hangs from his belt, and the living grimoire lies open on the proof lectern under his arm. Mia enters with Asta and sees nobles waiting for Ren to finish speaking. Hana holds his verified route ledger. Elara presents his spatial evidence under her own seal. Orin stands behind the cleanup contracts. None of them is decoration, and Ren no longer waits at the edge of anyone else's protection. The bidding starts after the first proof crystal lights. A border faction goes first. Land and a minor title for exclusive weapon conversions. A merchant consortium answers. Enough gold to buy every Ashbridge disposal yard. The Academy goes next. A private laboratory if Professor Elara gets first research access. The Royal Armory speaks last. Custody of Dispohusal Rift between approved uses. Ren sets a hand on the lectern. Not one of those mechanisms works for me. I contract for outcomes, he says. Give me what you legally threw away and name a category. If a low-risk return shows up, you buy it. Pay me in salvage rights, failed artifacts, cleanup routes, or research data. No faction gets exclusivity, Ren says. Nobody houses the portal or moves my hand. No test without limits and no claim on a return before it exists. Several bidders discover they wanted ownership more than service. Sarek steps into the silence. SSS Bloodfang, a living familiar foreign route law, and an unclassifiable aura core fill the other. The contradiction is the threat, Sarek says. You cannot rank this man. He makes weapons the kingdom cannot contain. He moves through space our barriers cannot measure and sends matter somewhere nobody has mapped. Sarek does not sit. And when he refuses the next royal order, the central Convergence's arch answers first. Its silver curve bends inward. All 9 crystal pins tear from Elahara's collar and point toward the floor. The proof map blackens. A seam splits the golden compass mosaic from Sarek's boots to the far wall. The seam opens without widening. Half the hall drops sideways. Tables, delegates, and spell lights slide toward a vertical darkness cut through the floor. Beyond it, an impossible stone corridor hangs under a violet sky. Something armored and eyeless plants 6 hooked limbs on the far edge. Then it pulls itself into Convergence Hall. The 6-limbed creature lands inside Convergence Hall. Its hooked feet bite the sideways floor. Plates of gray armor rotate around an eyeless head, and a thin black harness runs from its spine back into the rupture. Delegates slide toward it. Hana throws rune thread across the golden mosaic. Pale lines catch wrists, chair legs, and the bases of 3 tables before they reach the vertical seam. Orin drives a spear through the floor and loops evacuation ropes around the shaft. Elaha slams both palms onto the nearest silver arch. Spatial sigils flare over her bare shoulders. She can stop the opening from widening or stop the hall from turning farther sideways. Not both. The creature chooses for her. 1 hooked limb cuts through the air. Space folds behind it like glass under pressure. Ren reaches for Bloodfang. The spatial shear crosses his left side first. Adaptive Aegis has never felt that damage. Its translucent plates form late. The shear opens Ren's coat and cuts from rib to hip before the relic catches the deeper edge. Blood hits the compass mosaic. Now the EG's nose. The creature swings again. Black-silver plates spread across Ren's torso, and the second spatial shear breaks into harmless angles. First exposure still collects its price. Sarek loses his footing beside the breach. Hana's nearest threads already hold 6 other people. Ren has 2 full rift step charges and 1 line of intact gold tile. He plants. The first silver heel ring empties. Ren crosses 8 straight paces, catches Sarek's robe before the oracle reaches the seam, and drives Trocket into a crack in the mosaic. Its jaws lock along the existing fault. Oren's rope crew hauls both men back behind Hana's threadline. Rift step does not carry passengers. It gets Ren to the handhold in time. The living grimoire flips pages on the proof lectern. 9 silver circles appear, 1 for each hall arch. A black 10th shape hooks through the center and forces every circle sideways. The rupture has an anchor. Moro senses it before anyone sees it. Still a thin, failed shadow hound, he runs along Hana's threads instead of the tilted floor. Smoke paws touch each strand without breaking one. He stops beneath the creature's black harness and snarls. Elara follows his line. The harness is feeding foreign spatial pressure into the central arch. She orders Asta to take the east wing. 2 outer arches are folding toward the wyvern court, and the beast is too large to fight inside the hall. Asta moves. He and Mia reach the broken gallery as the tyrant wyvern tears through its roof gate. A second armored creature hangs above the east balcony, pulling the stone railing into another vertical seam. Students cling to the remaining columns. Asta mounts in one jump. Nice brands and Mia's life Kuvunin flashes silver around his burned arm and spreads across the wyvern's chest. The wyvern balks at the rupture. Asta forces 1 red chain pulse through the bond, then uses the obedience he gets well. He banks under the falling balcony, catches 3 students against the wyvern's saddle rig, and drives his lance through the second creature's open harness joint. When the rupture pulls at the wyvern's left wing, Asta releases the saddle brace instead of fighting the turn. The beast rolls with the force. Maya spreads the Covenant's resistance across the rescued students, and Asta uses the recovered angle for a second precise lance thrust. The creature twists. Maya takes the shared resistance into her own channels and holds the Covenant long enough for Asta to tear the lance free. The wyvern's wing clips the balcony, steadies, then carries the students clear before the stone falls. It is a real save. It also hurts everyone inside the bond. Maya feels Asta's aura grinding against the wyvern's refusal. Fear, fury, and the beast's resistance travel through life Covenant as one unstable pulse. She keeps the wounded students sealed anyway. In the central hall, Ren pulls Bloodfang from its reinforced rack. The weapon drags at his bruised ribs and fresh side wound. He feeds it 1 thin current of aura. Crimson channels answer, but the old body limit remains. The first creature charges a Lahara. Ren has 1 rift step charge left. He braces on the intact base of Oren's spear and chooses 1 straight line. The second heel ring empties. Rift step launches Ren past the creature's hooked forelimbs. He arrives beside its armored flank, turns his whole body once, and lets Bloodfang's weight carry a shallow cut through the rotating plates. That is enough. Endless bleed opens a red fracture behind the blade. The creature keeps moving, but the wound keeps cutting. 1 armored leg fails. Then a second. Ren cannot hold Bloodfang upright after the strike. He drops its point against the floor before his shoulder channel tears. Both rift step rings are dark. His right leg begins to numb again. The creature collapses beside the rupture. Foreign residue pours from its harness in violet-black sheets. Moro leaps into them. Hana calls him back. The residue closes over his thin body before her thread reaches him. Smoke floods across the floor, then pulls inward around 4 paws. Moro's legs lengthen. Hunger-thin ribs fill beneath a deeper black coat. The cracked horn above his left eye grows into a swept ridge with violet light burning through the old break. Rings of darkness replace the loose smoke around his feet. When he steps out, his shoulder reaches Ren's hip. The living grimoire turns 1 page by itself. Rift Hound. Moro has evolved once. He does not attack the dead creature. His new gaze follows lines no instrument has found. He crosses the tilted mosaic, presses 1 dark-ringed paw onto the harness, and tracks the residue beneath an armor plate. The grimoire links that plate to the black 10th shape on its diagram. Trocut has 1 job left. Ren cannot walk far on the numbed leg, so Hana threads his waist to Oren's spear anchor while Elara holds the arch. He kneels beside Moro, sets Trocut's jaws into the harness fault, and turns the haft. An obsidian anchor spike slides free intact. A black rune marks its base, an arch split by 1 road. The living grimoire slams open to the page where it first wrote Savra. Moro reacts before Elara speaks. Both dark paw rings flare. He snaps at the rune, recoils as if struck across the muzzle, then drives his claws through the mosaic and growls until every loose-proof crystal vibrates. The mark does not radiate curse mana. It carries root pressure only his evolved senses can feel. Same geometry. Same foreign stroke order. Elara does not call it a natural rupture. The spike is shaped, inscribed, and tuned to the Kunbergensu ray. Something intelligent prepared a tool that could use the hall's 9 arches. She has no name for the maker. That answer can wait. The hall cannot. Hana traces the 9 local connections from the grimoire's diagram. Moro plants his paws over the one line carrying foreign residue. Lara reverses the central arch while Ren twists the extracted spike against its route. The black 10th shape loses its hold. The reversal throws one final pulse through the anchor. Ren's adapted Aegis catches the spatial shear. Hana's waist thread keeps it beside Trocut, and Lara forces the pulse up through the empty central arch instead of through the delegates. The impossible corridor snaps away. Convergence's hull falls in the correct direction. Oren's ropes catch the last tables. The seam closes to one black thread, then disappears beneath the golden mosaic. At the east wing, Asta's lance shatters the second harness, and the tyrant wyvern carries the final students onto the roof. Royal clerks record the result before the dust settles. Asta and Mia receive credit for the east wing rescue and the second breach kill. Ren's team receives the central hall record, delegate saved, first creature stopped, foreign anchor recovered, rupture closed. Oren makes sure every name stays attached to its work. The border lord Ren negotiated with signs the record as witness. The academy provost adds Ren's restricted contractor seal beside Elara's. Sarek, alive because Ren crossed the collapsing floor for him, does not challenge either signature. Maya approaches, while Hana binds Ren's side and Elara seals the obsidian spike inside 3 spatial cases. Moro stands between them in his new Rift-Hound form, watching every corner of the hall. Mia asks Ren if they can speak when the healers finish. Ren tells her they can talk after the anchor is secure and everyone from the east wing is counted. His tone stays civil. Then Hana tightens the bandage, Elara asks for his route ledger, and Moro growls at residue beneath the broken lectern. Ren turns toward the broken lectern before Mia can answer. Asta sees the exchange from the ruined gallery. He has saved lives. He has killed a breach creature. Yet the hall's officials are gathering around Ren, the evolved hound, and the foreign anchor. Asta decides Ren's reputation has to be challenged directly. Asta makes his claim while the Convergence's hull still smells like broken stone. You have courage, nobody doubts that, Asta says. Then, look at the rest of it. Bloodfang killed the central creature and Professor Elara closed the route. Hana held this hall together. Take away the blade and the people guarding you, Asta says. What is left is a courier standing behind better power. Ren cannot yet hold Bloodfang through a full exchange. His first spatial shear wound is still bleeding beneath Hana's bandage. Elara's reversal did close the breach. Ren does not answer with another relic. 2 days of academy treatment stitch the cut from left rib to hip, seal the forearm burn, and reduce the right leg numbness. His ribs remain bruised, the hip channels still tighten after hard movement, and Hana forbids rapid rift step use. Ordinary walking refills both heel rings. He leaves them full. Elara keeps the Savra-marked obsidian spike triple-cased in the academy spatial vault. Moro remains a Rift-Hound and guards the case whenever residue escapes its seals. At the next mana ebb, Hana leads Rin and Oren into the Moonfall catacombs. Her preserved route opens beneath a flooded memorial stair. Moro follows spatial traces between collapsed shrines, while Room Thread finds memory-bearing iron inside one sealed alcove. The alcove belongs to Master Ilian Mar, the warden who held Moonfall Gate during the kingdom's first shadow incursion. His saber shattered in that fight. Centuries of failed restoration left 6 corroding fragments, a cracked scabbard, and water-damaged combat tablets still carrying the last pressure of his aura. History makes ownership slower. The Shrine Keeper meets them with an Academy archivist. Every tablet has been copied. Every fragment has been measured. The Memorial Trust records that the weapon cannot be restored and formally relinquishes the shards, ruined notes, and residual practice seals to Ren for technique preservation. Oren witnesses. Hana checks the release mark. Trocut removes the 6 fragments without scraping away one surviving combat line. The living grimoire links blade, notes, and residue. It does not draw an object outline. Instead, one empty circle appears around Ren's hands. Dispohazal Rift consumes the shattered saber and damaged tablets. Nothing comes out. A cold line crosses Ren's palms. For one breath, another person's balance occupies his body. He feels 1,000 attacks arrive, not as shapes, but as decisions made too early to reverse. One principle remains after the borrowed reflexes burn away. Enter the empty step. Move after an opponent commits weight, but before the attack fills the space they abandoned. Then the memory breaks. An empty black practice cord hangs under a violet sky. One fresh sword line cuts across its floor and ends at a split arch mark shaped like Savra. No fighter, teacher, or body appears. The image vanishes. Ren wakes on one knee with no new weapon in front of him. He has received a martial memory, not mastery. Oren tests that difference immediately with 2 blunted practice bars from the shrine rack. Show me the step, he says. Ren remembers exactly when to enter. His body moves before Oren's weight commits. The bar leaves Ren's hands. Too early, Oren says. Borrowed certainty is very efficient at producing personal mistakes. Again, Oren says. This time Ren waits too long and catches the padded point against the ribs. Too late, he says. Hana watches both failures through rune thread. You're starting at the shoulders, she says. You're copying the finished cut. His own weak hip channel cannot follow that sequence. Begin at the heel, she tells him. Oren gives him the rest. Stop copying the master's speed, he says. Watch the weight that creates the opening. On the third exchange, Ren watches Oren's rear heel rise. He lets the attack choose its line. Then, his front foot enters the empty space and his practice bar touches Oren's wrist before the captain can recover. There, Oren says. One correction. One clean result. On the way out, a memorial sentinel wakes as the mana stair starts closing. The iron construct swings a two-handed axe across the narrow landing. Now, Ren cannot overpower it, and loose water makes rift step footing unreliable. He draws Bloodfang only halfway. The sentinel's rear heel lifts. Ren waits. The axe commits to the outer line. Ren steps into the abandoned inside space, turns Bloodfang's flat against the sentinel's elbow, and lets its own weight drive the axe into the wall. He strikes the exposed command plate with the sword's guard. No edge touches the construct. Endless bleed never activates. The sentinel shuts down. Hana sees the hip channel hold because the movement begins at Ren's heel. Oren sees that Ren wins the timing exchange before Bloodfang's weight matters. Bloodfang sees it too. Crimson lines run one span farther along the blade. The synchronization reading changes from 0.4% to 0.9%. Still less than 1%. No new trait unlocks. Ren can simply hold the correct line longer without the weapon fighting his body. The Academy turns Asta's claim into a public fundamentals test. Master at Arms Korin Ash agrees to face Ren in the restored practice court. Korin trains royal guards and has not lost an academy evaluation in 4 years. The rules remove every excuse: equal blunted steel swords, no aura, no class skills, no artifacts, no rift step, no adaptive EGs, no familiar interference, and first to 2 clean touches. Bloodfang stays locked on the evidence rack. Elara stands outside the ward line. Hana holds Ren's injury ledger. Oren judges. Asta and Maya watch with the same students who once saw Courier on the appraisal crystal. Blades up, Oren says. Begin. Korin takes the first point in 3 movements. He feints high, changes weight late, and taps Ren's bruised side before Ren finds the true commitment. Point, Korin, Oren calls. The second exchange lasts longer. Ren stops watching the sword. Korin's rear heel leaves the floor. Ren enters the empty step and touches the blunted edge to Korin's forearm. Point, Ren, Oren calls. 1 point each. Reset, Oren says. Korin attacks the weak hip on the final pass. Ren lets the pressure come. He does not race the blade or borrow the Deadmaster's speed. He waits until Korin cannot turn back. One short step carries Ren inside the cut. His guard catches Korin's wrist. His point stops against the Master-at-Arms' chest. Oren calls the second touch. Ren wins. No blood. No endless bleed. No triple S weapon. No professor inside the ring. Korin salutes Ren first. That was timing, he tells the court. Not surprise power. Asta has no sword left to blame. Elara crosses the ward line before the applause finishes. She ignores the portal ledger. Did your side reopen? She asks. No, Ren says. She looks relieved before remembering how many people are watching. I came to observe a foreign technique, she says. I stayed to watch what you made your own. That is not a research comment. Hana hears it. She does not argue. She steps beside Ren and takes the injury ledger from her belt. His morning is mine, she tells Elahara. Channel recovery and moonfall footwork. You get the afternoon if the hip line stays stable. Ren notices she did not ask. Lara notices too. Mia waits until the court begins to clear. Then she approaches Ren without Asta and stops outside Hana's recovery thread. Can we speak privately? Ren agrees to talk and follows Mia into the Academy's recovery gallery. It is private by Academy standards. Nobody can hear a whisper. Everybody can see magic fail. Mia starts before she can build another excuse. Asta looked like the winner, she says. SSS Dragon Knight, Tyrant Wyvern, royal attention before the dust settled. And I had not awakened yet. No, and I treated that blank result like it was your answer. Ren waits. I chose the one who looked safest and strongest, Mia says. The one most likely to set my own value through life covenant. She turns her hand over on the table. Survival mattered, but it was not the whole truth. Status mattered too. I called the bond provisional because that word was easy, she says. It never made the choice temporary for you. You could have waited for my awakening. I know, and I chose not to. Why the hurry? I was afraid another support user would secure him first, Mia says. I wanted the strongest visible partner before the kingdom finished sorting everyone. Your place in my life became a risk I could apologize for later. She does not look away. No court advisor decided that for me. Ren lets the silence stay where it lands. I believe you, he says. Does that change anything between us? Honesty matters, Ren says. It does not restore what you ended before my turn at the circle. Then what would it take? More than learning my appraisal was wrong. Mia nods once. Then she moves to the practical reason she asked now. Elara's next spatial mission will expose Ren to another unknown route. Mia has a way to blunt it. In the Convergence's Hall crisis, I spread short rescue strands across wounded students, she says. They came off life covenant, shared resistance, and kept aura signatures from slipping apart while the hall folded. And you want to put one on me. The same temporary stabilization, nothing more. Say the limits out loud. Maya counts them off. The rescue strand cannot borrow his full aura, raise Ren's ceiling, or override another bond. It pins one willing person's aura signature to Mia's for 12 breaths and diverts part of incoming shock through her channels. And the cost follows the same path back. It does. If you take spatial backlash, I share it. If the strand overloads, the strain hits my primary covenant and can burn both links. Anna points at the silver-red stress marks on Mia's wrist. Several short strands during the crisis, Mia says. Why take that risk after what I just told you? Usefulness is not forgiveness, Mia says. I still owe the mission an honest offer. Hana looks up at that. One strand, with stop conditions, Ren says. No borrowed combat aura, no renewal after 12 breaths. Both wrists stay on my thread, Hana says. Ra watches from behind the glass. The line stops here, Hana says, marking the point. If his hip channels bolt tight, it ends. Maya holds out her hand. The primary covenant crest around her left wrist remains pointed toward Asta somewhere beyond the academy. A thinner silver line branches from it and curls over Ren's right wrist. His dark rift mark turns beneath the skin. The rescue strand touches it. Every lamp in the recovery gallery dims. The silver line does not snap. It bends into the rift mark, vanishes for one pulse, then returns black along the edges. Something on the unreachable end pulls back. 3 words form above Ren's wrist. Existing counterparty claim. The strand rejects Mia. Spatial pressure throws her into the moonvine screen and drives Ren's marked hand against the recovery table. His fresh hip channels seize. The silver-red primary crest on Mia's wrist flares hard enough to split the skin beneath it. Hana moves first. She cuts her own recovery thread away from Ren's hip, loops it around his wrist, and forces the black-edged strand out of the fresh channels. Her second thread catches Mia before the primary covenant backflow reaches her heart. Breathe on my count, Hana says. Both of you. You ask as the Neverus M of the 7. No smirk. No comment about the portal having standards. Moro fills the doorway and growls at the dark mark. His paw rings spread across the gallery tiles, following a route that disappears under Ren's skin. The rejection stops after 6 breaths. Maya's rescue strand is gone. Her primary covenant remains attached to Asta, but the crest pulses unevenly and her left arm shakes. The nearby healers see Mia thrown away from her former boyfriend. 2 practice court students see the exact wording over Ren's wrist. By the time Oren clears the arch, the gallery has already decided the portal rejected an ex-girlfriend. Mia hears the whispers. Color rises across her face, but she does not pretend the attempt never happened. Elara does not hear romance in the message. She leaves the Savros spike behind 3 sealed layers and crosses the gallery with her crystal ledger open. A claim is not a preference, she says. It is a recognized right, asserted by one party over an object, a route, or a transaction. A counterparty claim requires another claimant. Normal life covenant refusal says a target is unwilling, incompatible, or already bonded. It does not send the strand outside local space, return it black-edged, or use transaction language. Elara lifts her 2 spatial needles. For one moment, the rejected strand followed Dispohazel Rift's outward direction. Say the part you are avoiding, Ren says. Dispohazel Rift is not behaving like an ownerless personal skill, Elara says. Something outside every local coordinate reached through your mark. It recognized her strand and refused it as conflicting access. Who? I will not name a source I cannot measure, Elara says, closing the ledger. But I am done calling this exchange neutral. Anna checks Ren's pulse before she asks the questions nobody wants. Can this claimant force the route open? Can it change what comes back, or charge him a cost he never agreed to? Nobody answers. Then seal the portal tests until we can answer one of them, she tells Elara. Then Hana tightens the bandage on Mia's split wrist. Maya looks surprised. Stopping a covenant cascade is not approving your choices, Hana says. Safety comes first, because the backlash does not care who deserves what. Ren's hip channel slowly releases. The cut along his side stays closed. Elaha turns the crystal ledger toward them. To test whether the claimant's route can work in both directions, she needs 3 functions that already exist in local magic: permission, travel, and boundary. Broken dungeon keys can supply permission. Failed teleport plate fragments can supply route logic. Shattered barrier material can define what is being crossed. The sealed glassword ruin contains all 3. Nobody enters it today. First, Elara needs the materials for a boundary key. At dawn, the glassword seal opens one handspan and tries to close on Ren's arm. Hana catches the moving edge with 3 rune threads. Elara turns the ruin's dead entry key backward. Ren slips through before the stone remembers it is supposed to be a wall. Moro follows at his heel. Bloodfang rides in a reinforced back sheath. Trokut hangs at Ren's left side. The living grimoire stays under Elara's arm while adaptive Aegis and the fully charged Riftstep Greaves carry the rest of his survival plan. The brass compass keychain remains wrapped in Ren's inner pocket. The Savra spike remains triple-cased in the Academy spatial vault. Elara brings copied readings, not the dangerous evidence itself. Ren carries the sealed salvage charter through the opening. The Academy and Western Guild have declared Glassward's lower transit ward structurally dead. Under the sealed writ, every failed key, condemned teleport component, and shattered barrier piece recovered there belongs to Ren's disposal contract once Elara records it and Hana verifies no living claim remains. Functional royal artifacts still revert to the crown. That distinction is why Asta's faction is already inside. Gold wyvern ribbons mark the upper stairs. Asta has sent a royal retrieval cadre through an authorized gate to claim Glassword's intact navigation heart. Their banner captain shows Alara a separate crown writ, then reminds Ren that usable relics outrank trash. Ren agrees. It saves time explaining why they want different things. The ruin folds before either team reaches the first chamber. Glass panes rotate through the walls. Each reflects a corridor that existed a century ago, and each old corridor tries to replace the current one. Moro tracks the real floor by scent. Hana stitches Ren's belt to Elara's sleeve so a false doorway cannot divide them. The royal cadre takes the bright upper bridge. Ren follows Moreau down a stair visible only in broken reflections. A mirror sentinel steps out of the landing and swings a blade made from reverse distance. Adaptive Aegis has never learned inversion. The first cut lands. Cold burns across Ren's right forearm. His hand appears a pace away from his wrist for one sickening pulse. The Aegis catches the second strike, dark scales changing angle until the false distance slides around his ribs. Ren spends one rift step charge on solid stair. He crosses 8 paces, enters the empty step after the sentinel commits, and drives Bloodfang through its glass spine. The construct has no blood. Endless bleed does nothing. Technique does. The sentinel breaks into harmless reflections. Bloodfang still fights Ren's shoulder at 0.9% synchronization, so he sheathes it before strength becomes stubbornness. Below, Glassword's transit ward hangs over a black shaft. Broken key teeth orbit one door. Failed teleport plates flash destinations that no longer exist. A collapsed barrier lattice hums across the ceiling. Everything Alara needs is here. So is the royal cadre. Their upper route drops them onto the far platform. The banner captain drives a licensed extraction spike into the intact navigation heart. By both writs, the working core is crown property. Removing it will also wake the ward's collapse cycle. He warns Ren that they have 90 breaths. It is not sabotage. It is competition with a clock. Throw-cut separates 3 snapped key assemblies from the dead door without taking the living lock behind them. Elara stamps each piece condemned on her crystal ledger. Hana's threads test the release marks and find no owner resisting transfer. The living grimoire turns pages toward a row of inverted plates. 6 show failed route logic compatible with the keys. A 7th carries an older rejection pattern, the destination arrow carved backward through its own signature. Ren assigns that 7th fragment to his accepted and rejected recipe record instead of the batch. Elara marks it Glassword inverted plate 7, legally transferred under the same salvage writ, then seals it in a padded evidence sleeve at Ren's belt. The ceiling starts falling. Barrier crystal rains toward Hana. Ren spends his second rift step charge to reach her, but the floor turns vertical at the end of the burst. His fresh hip channels lock. Hana catches his harness. Adaptive Aegis takes the first crystal impact, already familiar with spatial shear, while Elara holds the 6 selected plates inside a stabilizing ring. Moro stands between them and the shaft. The navigation heart comes free across the chamber. Every abandoned route in Glassword opens at once. Pale hunting shapes pour from the mirrors. They are not living beasts. They are the ruins' old pursuit spells, still chasing travelers who died generations ago. One clamps around Moro's shadow and drags him towards 6 different corridors. His paw rings flare violet. The Rift Hound refuses every direction. Moro plants his cracked horn ridge against the floor and growls. Spatial residue stops moving around him. The hunting spells bow as if a larger predator has entered their territory. Darkness rolls outward from his paws. His shoulders rise above Ren's chest. Black fur lengthens into a mantle that swallows the mirror light. Violet crack in his horn spreads into a crescent crown, and a dim eclipse burns behind his head without touching the air. The ruins' appraisal glyphs scramble, then settle on one name. Eclipse Fenrir. Moro does not destroy Glassword. He claims the residue around his pack. One command in his growl forces the false corridors flat. The pursuit spells drop their borrowed jaws and crawl backward into the mirrors. For 8 breaths, every broken route points away from Ren, Hana, and Elara. Across the chamber, the royal banner captain stops treating the lower ward as a trash route. His cadre has won the crown's intact prize, but their authorized exit remains stable only because Moro holds the collapse away from both teams. 8 breaths are enough. Throw-cut pulls a clean bundle of shattered barrier braid from the falling lattice. Hana loops it around the condemned keys and 6 failed plates. Elara records the complete transfer before the royal cadre escapes through its authorized gate with the intact navigation heart. Moro releases the ruin. Glassword folds behind them as they run. They cross the entry seal with 1 heartbeat left. Outside, Ren's right forearm is cold burned and his hip channels spasm. His closed sidewound holds. Hana binds both before she lets him touch Dispahazel Rift. The 2 rift step charges are empty. Bloodfang remains at 0.9%. Moro remains enormous, watchful, and entirely himself. Elara and the living grimoire sort the legally relinquished batch on the sealed ruins threshold. Broken keys provide permission. 6 failed plates provide route. The barrier braid provides the definition of a crossed edge. Glassword inverted plate 7 stays in its evidence sleeve. Ren opens Dispahazel Rift. The stitched batch passes through the one-way darkness. No far side appears. A physical key drops into his palm. It is longer than his hand, made from black metal around a clear rotating core. It has no fixed teeth. When Ren touches it to Glassword's closed seal, lines inside the core copy the seal's magical signature. Turning the key makes two matching rings appear, one for the side he stands on, one for the side beyond. The key cannot invent an unknown destination. It needs direct contact with a standing boundary or a preserved signature from that boundary. Once recorded, however, the access pattern recognizes no privileged side. The living grimoire supplies the name. Boundary key. Elara sees the danger before anyone celebrates. The key does not break a wall by force. It records a boundary signature and makes both sides recognize the same authorized route. Its logic is two-way, even when the user intends only to enter. That makes it an answer. It also makes the counterparty claim worse. Ren can test the key in secret. Instead, he chooses the Western Royal Barrier. The original summoning court holds the first records of his mark, the Exile Order, and every barrier reading taken when Dispohuzzle Rift awakened. The people behind that barrier also deserve to know their perfect security can be copied from outside. He needs access, records, and guards who understand the scale of the threat. Revenge would be simpler. Security is more useful. By the time they reach the Western Gate, ordinary walking has refilled both Rift Step heal rings. Ren does not use them. He approaches in daylight with Hana on his right, Alahara on his left, Eclipse Fenrir Moro behind them, and Bloodfang visible over his shoulder. The gate warden orders them to stop. Elaha presents the Glassword Charter and requests a witnessed spatial test. The warden refuses entry but does not forbid measurement. Ren presses the boundary key to the royal barrier. Its clear core records the western seal. He turns at once. Two black rings form on opposite sides of the wall. The kingdom's unbreachable barrier opens like a door. The paired rings persist only while the boundary key remains engaged and turned. Reversing or removing it will close both openings, but the copied western signature will stay stored in its clear core. Alarm bells strike across the western court. The strained ward ejects one shattered royal keystone from its crown arch. Trokut catches it before it crushes a guard. The gate warden examines the dead sigils, declares the keystone structurally failed and beyond royal reuse, then formally transfers Western Keystown to Ren for breach analysis under emergency salvage authority. Hana wraps it in rune thread. Ren locks it inside Trokut's reinforced salvage case rather than feeding it to the rift. Hana crosses first. Elara follows with the living grimoire. Moro ducks through behind her, and the gate warden brings two guards as official witnesses. Ren crosses last with his right hand still extended through the outer ring. From inside, he turns the boundary key back, pulls it free, and withdraws his arm. Both black rings close. The royal barrier seals behind them. Its signature continues turning inside the key's clear core. His original classmates fill the mustering court. Royal officials stand beneath the alarm balcony. Maya waits among the support ranks with her left wrist bandaged and her primary covenant still pointing toward Ashta. They see the boy they discarded return through their sealed wall. Bloodfang rests over his shoulder. Eclipse Fenrir Moro darkens the gate behind him. Hana walks close enough to check his injured arm without asking permission. Elahra enters as his professional equal, already recording the kingdom's failed assumption. Asta stands apart beneath the royal banner. He looks at Ren, then at the court rearranging itself around him. He refuses that new hierarchy before anyone speaks it aloud. Asta steps down from the dais and orders the center of the mustering court cleared. Asta invokes breach validation before the guards finish clearing the mustering court. The old statute exists for monsters, imposters, and uncontrolled summons that cross a royal wall. The highest-ranked combatant present may demand a public non-lethal test. Asta is the kingdom's SSS Dragon Knight. Every advantage looks official. A breach through the royal barrier gives the crown grounds to test the person holding the key. The argument is self-serving. It is also valid enough to sanction. A royal adjudicator fixes the stakes before pride can rewrite them. If Ren loses, the crown holds Bloodfang, Adaptive Aegis, Rift Step, and the Boundary Key pending a security hearing. If Ren wins, no one may seize his gear or companion under the old courier classification. The court must open an immediate public classification hearing instead. The terms are non-lethal. A life ward ends the duel on incapacitation, surrender, or a clean finishing position. Asta keeps Mia's existing primary covenant support. Ren may use Hana's prepared rune thread support under the same rule. Ren accepts. Elara places the boundary key and Glassword inverted plate 7 in a transparent evidence coffer under her seal and the gate warden's. Trokut's reinforced case, still holding Western Keystown 4, locks beside them. Hana binds 3 rune threads before Ren enters the circle. They cannot move him or attack for him. They let his body survive his decisions. The tyrant wyvern drops from the west tower. Its landing cracks 2 court stones. Royal gold armor covers its chest and wing joints. Asta mounts in fitted sunsteel plate with a long dragon lance, shock runes around the grip, and a control chain fixed to his gauntlet. Maya stands beyond the line. Her bandaged left wrist shines as Life Covenant feeds Asta's steady aura and shares the wyvern's strain through him. The adjudicator lowers a silver rod. Asta attacks before its echo dies. The wyvern drives low instead of climbing. Its wings compress the cord air while Asta angles the lance behind the pressure wave. Ren's Aegis knows compression, but knowing a force is not the same as being stronger than it. The first pass throws him 12 feet. Hana's shoulder thread goes taut. Ren lands on his boots instead of his injured side. He raises Aegis for the lance point. Gold shock aura punches through the shield. That damage is new. His left hand goes numb, and a branching burn reaches his elbow before the Aegis can change. The second pulse spreads over dark scales and grounds into the court. The wyvern follows with a controlled fan of flame. Aegis already knows heat and folds it around Ren instead of stopping it. Asta uses the wall of fire as cover, dives through his own beast's breath, and strikes Bloodfang's spine before Ren sees the lance. Ren gives 3 steps. The life ward across his chest flashes but does not end the duel. Moro tracks the mounted pair through the flames, yet Ren has no footing for rift step until the fire clears. Asta wheels the wyvern cleanly. He does not charge the same line twice. He feints high, sends the wyvern's tail across Ren's retreat, then drops the lance toward the hip Hana has braced. Ren spends his first rift step charge on solid stone. 8 straight paces carry him inside the tail sweep. Bloodfang meets the lance shaft. Ren tries to enter the empty step, but Asta has trained against his public footage. The Dragon Knight keeps weight centered in the saddle and releases the lance with one hand before commitment becomes visible. His armored knee catches Ren's shoulder. Bloodfang nearly leaves Ren's grip. Asta takes the next exchange too. The wyvern's wing forces Ren toward the ward edge while the lance shock overloads Aegis from the opposite side. Mia's Covenant replaces the aura Asta spends. She gives him a clean, steady advantage. Her support is not free. Silver-red stress creeps beyond the fresh bandage each time Asta refills his lance and the wyvern in the same breath. Mia shortens the transfer before it becomes a cascade, then opens it again when his next pass begins. She is controlling a strained primary bond well enough to keep Asta dangerous. Grit. Ren's cold-burned forearm opens under its bandage. His hip channel tightens. Bloodfang remains 0.9% synchronized and feels every fraction of the difference. Asta is not a fraud. He is simply using loyalty as if it were equipment. Moro moves between the wyvern and Hana when the next wing beat reaches the support line. He does not attack. He plants 4 dark paws and watches. Asta sees the cord, watching him fail to finish. He pulls the control chain and points his lance at Moro. Crush it. The tyrant wyvern takes 1 step. Then it stops. The same hesitation from the summoning circle returns under daylight, royal wards, and 100 witnesses. Its claws score the stone. Its head turns sideways. Asta drives more aura through the chain. Maya feels the answer first. The primary Covenant tightens around her split wrist. Asta's command travels through her support and meets the wyvern's refusal coming back. The beast is not confused. It understands exactly what Asta wants. It does not want to do it. Moro's crescent horn brightens. For 8 breaths, Eclipse authority settles over the mustering court. No charm line touches the wyvern. Aelara's ledger records no control effect. Space simply grows still around Moro's pack, and every predatory instinct in the circle recognizes who is holding ground by choice. The wyvern lowers its chest. It backs away from Moro by 2 full paces and folds its wings. Asta orders it forward again. The wyvern remains beside him, but it will not cross the dark line around Ren's people. On the 8th breath, Moro's eclipse fades. The wyvern still does not advance. That is not mind control. It is a decision. Moro turns away first and walks back to Hana. He has made the hierarchy visible. He does not need to win Ren's duel. The gold control chain hangs useless from Asta's fist. Around the circle, the original class recognizes the image before any official can soften it. On summoning day, that wyvern's arrival made Ashta look inevitable. Now, the same beast keeps its own feet outside Moro's line while Ren has never issued his companion a command. Mia's original choice does not vanish. She feels it collapse through the exact bond she chose. Even now, she keeps her support steady. She does not sabotage Asta to soften the lesson. Asta dismounts. He could yield with his title damaged and his body whole. Instead, he releases the control chain, takes the dragon lance in both hands, and attacks Ren personally. Without the saddle, his footwork is better. He drives Ren backward with 3 disciplined thrusts. The first tests Aegis. The second turns Bloodfang wide. The third strikes the life ward over Ren's bruised ribs hard enough to blur his sight. Hana's hip thread catches a dangerous twist and transfers it into the harness. It cannot remove the pain. It keeps the channel from tearing. Asta shortens his grip and changes rhythm. He knows Ren watches heels now, so he gives false weight twice and holds the real commitment behind a burst of dragon aura. Ren does not chase the feints. He lets adaptive Aegis take another grounded shock strike. He lets Asta see the numb left hand and tight right hip. He gives the Dragon Knight the correct weakness. Asta commits to it. His rear heel rises. Both hands lock on the lance. Maya's Covenant flares to reinforce the finishing drive. The space beside Asta becomes empty. Ren spends his second and final rift step charge. 8 straight paces carry him past the lance point and into the line Asta has abandoned. Aegis catches the shock collar. Its adapted scales ground the aura. Bloodfang's flat knocks the lance across Asta's armored chest before the edge can touch skin. Asta releases one hand and throws a gauntleted punch. Ren begins at the heel. He enters the empty step, turns under the punch, and hooks Bloodfang's guard behind Asta's wrist. Asta's committed weight pulls his own arm across his body. Ren drives one shoulder into the Sunsteel breastplate and uses the straight end of Rift Step's momentum instead of fighting the armor. Asta hits the cord on his back. His lance skids beyond reach. Ren stops Bloodfang's edge against the locking seam beneath Asta's gorget. No cut. No endless bleed. No help from Moro. The life ward turns white. The adjudicator counts 3 breaths. Asta tries to rise on the first. Bloodfang's guard keeps his weapon arm pinned. He stops on the second. On the third, the Western validation bell rings. Ren steps back before anyone can call restraint humiliation. Mia's covenant light dims but does not break. Her wrist is bleeding through the bandage. Asta remains conscious. The wyvern remains uninjured, and standing at a distance it shows. Hana cuts the support threads and reaches Ren before his hip gives way. Elara keeps one hand on the sealed evidence coffer. The gate warden keeps the other seal visible. The original class has now watched its SSS hero fight well, receive full support, command the field, and lose anyway. Under the validation statute, the Crown cannot seize Ren as a non-combat courier. It also cannot keep calling him one without answering the result. Back in the annex, Dispohezal Rift opens by itself. The open rift widens over the empty disposal tray. Ren tries to close his hand. The portal stays open. His accepted and rejected recipe ledger lies on the left work table, exactly where he placed it for the morning archive test. Every batch, ownership transfer, failed material, and purpose mismatch fills its bound pages. Nothing in either record authorizes this. Metal strikes the tray. A short ceremonial blade falls out of Dispohazal Rift and spins once before Hana catches the hilt with rune thread. Moro hits the portal as she catches it. He crosses the annex in one bound, slams both forepaws against the reinforced tray, and snaps at empty darkness. His crescent horn burns violet. The eclipse behind his head flares, but no 8-breath territory spreads. Dark rings race from his paws under the tray and stop at a point beyond every mapped wall. Moro bites at the residue there, recoils, and plants himself between the open rift and Ren. He is not attacking the returned weapon. He is trying to intercept something following it. Ren recognizes the bad balance first. The Royal Armory gave him that blade for Sarik's first practical test. It entered the portal covered in rust, unable to cut, and missing its tip. The armory had already marked it for melting. Now, the rust is gone. The broken tip has been rebuilt in darker metal. Old corrosion pits remain under the polish, and the original fracture line is still visible where the new point joins it. Someone has cleaned the blade, repaired it, and altered the balance without replacing the original iron. Hana keeps it suspended while Ren opens the first page of his ledger. The armory's condemnation seal, broken tip sketch, weight, and ownership transfer all match. A half-melted royal stamp remains under the new polish in the exact place he recorded. This is not a copy selected to frighten him. It is the first object he ever fed Dispohazal Rift. A black split-arch rune marks the repaired section. Savra. Elara's lens finds 2 spatial histories in the metal. The original iron still carries the Royal Summoning Hall signature. The repaired tip carries the same unreachable direction as every portal return. One blade has physically occupied both sides. The armory discarded it to Ren during a witness test. Its return does not cancel that transfer. The repaired blade is still legally his, now carrying both world signatures. The portal's private blade grooves appear around its rim. Then they pull apart. A second interface opens above the tray. It offers no history, name, or explanation. Only 2 lines survive the distortion. Counterparty, active reverse gate, nearly complete. Below them, 5 filled shapes form most of a split arch. The living grimoire opens to its sealed Savra page without being touched. Its drawn split arch aligns with the unfinished shape above the rift. Only one narrow section remains dark.